Happy Friday, everybody. Made it through another week of remote instruction. For me, it's Thursday night, so I have met with 2/3 of you today and talked to you about your drafts or your outlines or wherever you are on Portfolio 3. And it was really nice to talk to you all and kind of hear how things are going. So wanted to talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to circle back to something related to all of those video conferences and audio conferences. So today in class, we would be doing introductions and conclusions. And in lit reviews, introductions and conclusions are really, really formulaic. There's always these same components that just occur in every single one. And so if you've already written an introduction or conclusion, you might move that to a background section if it actually has like novel things to say beyond what's in the introduction you're about to make, or you might scrap it entirely or kind of integrate it into the new introduction or conclusion that you're going to write. So you read for today's class some introductions and conclusions as samples, and I'm going to attach a sheet that highlights them with the different components that correspond to the checklist item that you're doing today with those same components, so you can kind of see what they look like in these real introductions and conclusions that you read, and hopefully that will be helpful. I've done the first 2 out of 3 of each one, and you can sort of, if you feel like it, do the third one yourself and see if you can figure out where things work. And you'll notice that they don't necessarily go in the order. It's not always like topic sentences, thesis sentences, parameters. Sometimes it's all switched around. So you'll see that it can just depend on how the author wants to do it, as long as those components are all there. For the conclusion, one thing that I want you to be thinking about, if you haven't already included this, is thinking about gaps and limitations in the research that you have found. So that's, in order to earn full credit for your conclusion, you're going to have to come up with some area in which future research needs to be done. And so you can identify, there's been a lot on this, but there hasn't been a lot on this, so future researchers should explore this area. So just think of 1 or 2 things that you can put in your conclusion for that. And then over this weekend, it's APA time. So APA citation is the style that we're using in this class. A lot of you probably did MLA in high school, which is because it was an English class, and in English as a humanities subject, they mostly use MLA. MLA doesn't require years in the citation, in the in-text citations, because it doesn't really matter that much whether your paper about Hamlet was from 1980 or 2012. But for science and social sciences, it matters a lot more as to what year something happened. You want it to be recent. So APA is more applicable to those sorts of disciplines, which reflects the ones that you are mostly in this class, which is why we're doing APA. So I've included a ton of resources on APA, which are in the research materials folder under Portfolio 3. So research materials all the way on the left under Portfolio 3, and it should be top of that is APA style resources, and there's a little list that tells you what each one is about. And there's some that are really thorough. If you have some weird, you're citing a PowerPoint in a book on a website, like just, if it's this weird sort of thing. But most of the time you're going to be doing journal articles. And so there's a very easy sheet. It's number 2 on the list that gives you some examples of how it is that you would go about doing that. So read those through as thoroughly as you can. I've also made a Google Doc, which will be linked here, that you can write your questions about APA on, rather than give you a 30-minute video of me talking about APA citation, which nobody's going to watch. I thought it would be best to just let you offer questions that you have, and I will answer them in the Google Doc, and hopefully that will get us to all the answers that you need for APA citation. So the draft that's due on Wednesday is going to have APA style citation, both the in-text citations and the references page. It's going to have an introduction, a conclusion, and also an abstract. So abstracts are part of your reading for today. And in the UNC Chapel Hill site, they have descriptive and informative versions of the abstract. We're going for the informative version. And there's a sample humanities one, and that's kind of the closest to what you're doing in this class because you're not doing original research, but it's more like you're going through archives. So that's the one that's probably closest to what it is that you are going to be writing for your abstract. You also need to include keywords at the end of your abstract. So think about if you were wanting someone to be able to search for your paper, what words would be helpful? Like what would people be likely to put into Academic Search Premier if they're looking to find your paper? So think of kind of 5 to 10 words that you think would be helpful for a researcher. Okay, so that's today and sort of homework toward next week. Coming back to the consultations that we had today, my main takeaway is that you are all super duper stressed and have way too much to do. And so I do not want to pile on busy work. The exercise, the checklist item that we usually do for Monday, which is a sort of scavenger hunt of APA, in normal times is really just a ploy to make sure that you have read the APA materials, because a lot of people kind of skip those, and so it kind of familiarizes you with them. But that is not necessary in our current state. That's not something we need to do. So I want you to skip that checklist item. Everybody gets credit. Yay! So Monday, take the day off. Don't worry about this class. And so between today, Friday, and Wednesday, I just need you to be working on your drafts, reading the APA materials, and putting your questions into the Google Doc. So take Monday off. I hope you all get some rest and, just hang in there. Send me your questions. I am always here to answer questions. And have a good weekend. All right, bye, everybody.